Hi everyone, my name is Emma Scharkie and I'm going to speak to you today on sports psychology and developing an elite mindset. So just a really quick introduction to myself. My name is Emma Scharkie. I'm a registered psychologist in South Australia and I work across several sporting organisations including Athletics SA. I've been a psych now for 7 years or nearly 7 years, and I have worked pretty much exclusively in sport, and I feel very, very lucky to have done so. I'm also from a farm in country South Australia, so I now split my time between the family farm and my work in Adelaide as a sports psych. So today what we're going to be covering is looking at a brief introduction to sports psychology, what it is, why it's important, and then delving into this idea of the elite mindset by covering what is a mindset, what all elite athletes have in common when it comes to their mindset, what does an elite mindset look like, and how to develop that elite mindset. So really quickly, we will do a quick introduction to sports psychology. So sports psychology is basically the regular and consistent practice of mental skills or psychological skills in order to improve our performance or enjoyment of the sport. It's really important that we remember that these things that we're talking about, including our mindset, is a skill, and all skills take practice. We don't go to the gym and expect to get strong just because we've done one weight session. We know we have to do multiple weight sessions before we'll see an improvement. And we don't just learn a skill once in our sport. We don't just learn to throw a javelin once or learn to pole vault once. We have to practice those skills. We have to get better and better at it all the time through practice. And so that's true for our psychological skills as well. And it's also really, really important to recognize that our brain is a bit like a muscle, and the more we use certain pathways in our brain, the stronger those pathways get and the more habitual those behaviors will become, which is why we really, really need to practice these skills. Also really, really important to remember that sports psychology is not about when something's wrong. You don't go and see a sports psych when you're in a slump necessarily. While many athletes do reach out when they're having a difficult time, a lot of athletes also come and see a sports psych as a regular part of their training, and they're constantly working on their mental skills in order to be the best athlete they can be, even when they're going really, really well. So it's not using a sports psychologist or going to a sports psych session is not a sign of weakness, and it's certainly not something to be sneered at. It is a really, really important part of your development as an athlete. And I think we are all more and more realizing as we perform at a higher and higher level that the mental side of the game is a really, really important side of the game, a really important side of what we do as athletes. So it's reported by a lot of coaches that up to 80% of our sporting performance is mental, sometimes more depending on the sport. And athletics is an individual sport, so often we talk about individual sports having a higher mental element, particularly because you're out there by yourself. You can't bounce off your teammates. You don't have that necessarily. Everybody's watching you when you're performing. However, we traditionally spend very little time practicing our mental skills, usually around 20% or 0 to 20% of our practice time compared to 10 to 20 plus hours of our physical training. So we all acknowledge that this is a really, really important part of what we do as athletes. And it is really important that we spend some time investing in it. So it's when you've been performing one day and you've come off the field and someone says to you, "What happened there today?" And you're like, "I just lost concentration." Well, concentration is a mental skill, and so these are the moments that we talk about how important it is to train these skills as well. So what kind of things could a sports psychologist help with? Well, I think the picture there on the screen is a really nice little summary there. So an athlete may come and speak to me about their motivation. They may speak to a sports psych about managing their emotions. They might talk about their well-being. They might talk about their confidence and their self-esteem. They might be talking about team cohesion. Might be talking about just coping skills for when things are going wrong, because as athletes, things go wrong all the time. And it's really important to be able to have coping skills to be able to bounce back when those things do go wrong. So a sports psych might also talk about how to improve your focus and your concentration. Might also be about helping you relax before competition or around stressful times, and therefore helping you manage stress and anxiety. and also about your self-awareness and your ability to be prepared for every competition. It says pre-match preparation there, but that's pre-race competition for any pre-comp as well. So they might be all the things that a psychologist may be able to help you out with. And again, I want to reinforce that these things are skills. So we have to practice them, we have to apply them, we have to assess what worked and modify as needed. And then practice those skills, apply, assess, modify. So today we're going to be talking about mindset and some skills that you can use to change your mindset. And therefore, it'll be about finding which bits work for you and which bits don't work for you, because not everybody's the same, but you have to practice the skill. You won't know if it's helpful or not helpful unless you practice. And a really nice little slide here, just a reminder that we play sport with our heart, but we win with our mind. You know, we all feel very passionate about what we do, and it's really important that we get invested in, and we all are invested in our sport emotionally, so our heart's very much involved. But we do still need to make sure that this thing's switched on up here and we can manage our emotions and that we can stay focused in the key moments in order to perform. A quote there, a couple of quotes there, one from Andy Murray, who very famously has used the sports psychologist, and his quote there is, "A lot of athletes use sports psychologists," and he did all through his career. And a quote there from David James, who is a Premier League goalie in the UK. And his quote there is, "Of course a sports psychologist can help. It certainly helped me. People think you must be crackers if you've got a psychologist. But psychology is part of the building bricks to make a top athlete." So top athletes in the world across all sports recognise the importance of our mindset. So I'm going to delve in to this mindset stuff today and talk about what the elite mindset looks like. I want you to imagine an athlete who never tries new things, who chooses to do the easy drills, steps, skills, efforts all the time, just avoids challenges, doesn't train the things that they don't like or feel a bit uncomfortable doing. They don't try very hard, they give up pretty easily, they make a lot of excuses, and they think that when they fail or make a mistake that it's a reflection on what kind of athlete they are and how they'll never be successful. And they think that whenever the coach gives them feedback that he or she is telling them off or is attacking them. Do we think this athlete's likely to improve? Probably not. Do we think that this athlete's likely to experience success? Probably not. Why not? Well, those behaviours there are not really behaviours that are going to get that person any better. And their mindset in terms of the way they think about how they treat mistakes and the way they treat feedback and the way they treat difficult things is clearly not going to move them very far. Now I want you to imagine an athlete who is willing to try new things and who will do things that are uncomfortable, will persist whenever they experience a setback. They'll see mistakes, setbacks and failures as an opportunity to learn and grow. They'll embrace challenges and they'll work hard to improve. They never give up. They see feedback as a chance to learn and develop new ways of doing things. They always want to improve. They're always asking, how can I get better? What more can I do? And they see obstacles as a chance to problem solve and be creative. Is this athlete likely to improve? Is this athlete likely to be successful? Yeah, I think this person is. Why? Because of their attitude, their mindset, the way they go about things, the behaviors. So a mindset is how we think and how we act based on how we think. And it's really important to recognize that how we think and what you believe has a really big impact on how you go about your sport, both in training and in competition. And ultimately, it will determine how successful you'll be. So the things that you think about yourself and believe about your abilities, that's going to change your behavior. And those behaviors then become training habits and competition habits, and therefore it's going to really quickly translate into performance on the field. So I'm sure many of you have already heard about the fixed and growth mindset stuff. It's been really big in schools for a long time now. And I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Carol Dweck, who this presentation is based on the work that she has done along with some other researchers. And she has coined these terms, fixed and growth mindset. Like I said, I'm sure you've heard about them before. So the two big ones that we're going to talk about today and how they apply to sport. So a fixed mindset. A fixed mindset is that belief that your abilities are carved in stone. You're born with what you have, and that's it. And when you fail or when you find something particularly hard, that's kind of the limit of your ability, the limit of your talent. You're either talented or not talented. Whereas a growth mindset is the belief that your abilities and skills and talents can grow and change over time. Your intelligence can grow, your skills can get better and better. And the mindset that when you fail, it's just an opportunity to grow and to get better. And it's a learning curve, and we all go through that learning curve in order to get better. And I think the thing is, as athletes, is most of us have a growth mindset most of the time, but not always. And what we want to talk about today is a little bit about what it looks like when we have a growth mindset and how we can start to develop that in those moments that the fixed mindset tends to come out again. So a really quick little summary there with our growth versus our fixed mindset. When we have a fixed mindset, we'll see skills as innate and unchanging, whereas a growth mindset, we'll see skills as a result of hard work and that we can always improve. When we're faced with challenges, someone with a fixed mindset will try to avoid these, will worry that these challenges will reveal a lack of skill and will feel quite overwhelmed. Versus someone with a growth mindset who will embrace these challenges and see it as an opportunity to change and understand that it calls for perseverance. Someone with a fixed mindset, will see effort as not necessary, and if you have to try too hard, it means you're not good enough. Versus someone with a growth mindset will see effort as essential. We have to put effort in, and it leads to mastery. It leads to being able to be a master at what we do. People with a growth mindset will really welcome feedback and see it as useful and positive and as a way to identify areas to improve in. Whereas someone with a fixed mindset will be very defensive and take it very personally when they get feedback. And setbacks. Someone with a fixed mindset will, when they have a setback, they will try to blame others. They'll say it's not their fault. They'll be easily discouraged by this. Whereas when a person with a growth mindset faces a setback, they won't not feel the emotions that go along with being disappointed and annoyed and just upset that something's gone wrong. But they will see it as an opportunity to learn, and they'll focus on making changes from that instead. So they'll still have all the emotions that go along with the experience of having a setback or failing or just being disappointed generally, but they'll see it as an opportunity in some way. And people with a growth mindset have a really different definition of success. We often see success as winning all the time, but people with a growth mindset define success a little bit differently. So I've got a couple of quotes up here that I think are a really nice way of seeing how people with an elite mindset, with a growth mindset, and are elite at what they do, define success. So the first quote there is, success means doing the best we can with what we have. Success is the doing, not the getting, in the trying, not the triumph. Success is a personal standard, reaching for the highest that is in us, becoming all that we can be. There's a great quote there. The next one is, if you focus on success, you'll have stress. But if you focus on and pursue excellence, success will be guaranteed. Another quote here, excellence is the gradual result of always striving to do better. Success comes from knowing that you did your best to become the best that you are capable of becoming. So these people here are talking about success being a personal standard, achieving your level of excellence, the best that you can become. It's not necessarily about winning after time after time after time after time. It's about focusing on being the best I can possibly be and being excellent and always striving to do better. That's how champions and very, very successful people see success. I think a really big part of having a fixed mindset is that fear of failure. And often we're very, very worried about, when we define success as winning, we become very fearful of losing or of failing or of not being able to perform at the level we want to perform at. And that's very much a fixed mindset approach. When we're stuck in a fixed mindset, we see setbacks or not performing as the worst thing that can possibly happen. However, we know that failure is actually a really, really important part of becoming successful. All the evidence suggests that very few people who are successful don't fail at some point. And so when we can flip failure from seeing failure from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, we can actually see the power in failure. And we'll come back to that in a second a little bit more. The people with a growth mindset, this is based on the work from Carol Dweck, people with a growth mindset define success as doing your best, learning and improving. And this doesn't always mean winning. It means giving your best performance. They see mistakes and setbacks and failures as something to use as motivation. And they take charge of the process of becoming great. They find out what needs to be done and they become responsible for doing it. There's a great story of a South Australian Paralympian, Matt Cowdrey, one of Australia's most successful Paralympians. He's a swimmer, and he spoke a lot about taking control as an athlete and being in charge of your own development. His parents were incredibly supportive parents, and he tells this wonderful story about how if he wanted to go to the pool and train, he had to get his dad up at 5 o'clock in the morning. So a lot of swimmers train very early in the morning, and so you have to get up early. So Matt had to set his alarm and go get his dad up if he wanted to go to training. And if he didn't get up and wake his dad up, he just wouldn't go. And so that was Matt taking responsibility and ownership of his career and going, no, this is something I want to do and I'm owning it. And my parents are super supportive, but they're making me take responsibility for it, and I need to do that if I'm going to become great. So champions don't see failure from a fixed mindset point of view. Really sorry I got distracted just then. I'm actually at the farm recording this and there is a cow on my back lawn. So when I finish this, I'll have to go shoo the cow. So apologies for that. So how champions see failure. Let's get back to topic. See, I was distracted then. Great quotes here firstly from Michael Jordan, one of the greatest athletes of all time, and a very famous quote here. I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. And then Lola Jones, a US track and field athlete. Failure isn't failure if it prepares you for success tomorrow. So both of those people are seeing failure in a very different way. Now, I haven't watched it yet. It's my job for this coming weekend when my husband is away to watch the Michael Jordan Last Dance documentary. But from what I've heard, he spends a lot of time talking about his mindset and how he sees competitors as motivation and things like that. So I think that in terms of mindset and the way that we see failure, it's really important that we remind ourselves that failure isn't failure in the way that we sometimes see it. It actually can be an opportunity for us. So I really love this picture. This is a picture about what it is to be an expert and how to become excellent at something. So the first time we do something, we're usually pretty terrible at it. The first time we tried to tie our shoes, if anyone can remember back that far, we can't do it. We're pretty bad at it. The first time I swung a golf club, I was terrible at it. Divots everywhere. Now, I didn't enjoy golf, so I dropped out. I stopped. I suck at this. I give up. Not something I wanted to pursue. So I got stuck behind the low sucks threshold and I dropped out. Now, most of us learn how to tie our shoes, or well, I think most of us have, particularly in athletics, because we wear our shoes all the time. So we go over the sucks threshold and become an amateur. Now that I can do this, I will just keep doing it this way. There's no motivation for me to get any better. I can just do it this way because it works and it's fine. But if we want to become an expert, we have to pass through the kick-ass threshold. And that is the idea that I will keep pushing myself, and there's always a better way. And that's when we start to go from struggling and frustrated over time up into that flow where we feel like we're in the zone and we can keep pushing ourselves and keep improving and just getting better and better and better. That's what an expert is. So we have to move past those thresholds into the expert. But it takes time, and we do have to keep asking ourselves if there is a better way to do things. So we have to have that very growth mindset approach. Many of us think that success is a straight line. We start off down here at Little Aths and we move up through the pathways, and one day we're an Olympian. But I think that anybody who's actually an Olympian or has been super, super successful in their sport will tell you that that's not really how it works. It looks more like the picture there on the other side, the squiggly line one. You know, we have some success, and then we have a setback, and then things go wrong, and then maybe we get an injury and we can't compete, or COVID-19 happens and we don't get to go to nationals, and all of these things happen, and it looks very much like this squiggly line. But we will eventually get to success if we persevere. And learning is hard. We do something one way, and then we get given a new way of doing it, or we have to try something different, we move up a level or something like that. And it's very hard. We don't understand. We want to quit, and we hit this wall at the bottom of the pit where we're really struggling. And if we can get through that wall through effort and perseverance, we'll try again. And we find somebody who can maybe help us, and then we start to get it. And then we get up there, up the other side, and eureka, we have learned something. In fact, if we can leap over the pit, we're probably not learning. So it's really important to understand that actually a part of becoming great is to go through this learning pit and have this struggle. We don't get to the other side of this and learn something new and become something great without the struggle. So it's actually really important to experience the struggle as we go through. And I'm not saying you have to enjoy the struggle, and I'm not saying that you have to find it easy or you want to have it all the time. In fact, most of us really like it when it starts to feel easy again. But we do, if we want to become that expert, if we want to pursue excellence, if we want to be successful, we have to be okay with the struggle that is going to be a part of it. This is a quote from a very ancient philosopher, Aristotle. And the quote is, "We are what we repeatedly do. Success is not an action, but a habit." And so we need to remember that success is about us training the right habits and putting it all together at the right times. And that's what we've become. We've become successful through those habits. From the champions themselves, so a couple of quotes here about from some very, very successful athletes and what's been important to them in being successful. Michael Phelps: "Everything is possible as long as you put your mind to it and put the work and time into it." Roger Federer: "There is no way around hard work. Embrace it. You have to put in the hours because there's always something which you can improve." Amateurs call it genius, masters call it practice. The backbone of success is hard work, determination, good planning, and perseverance. Mia Hamm. Another one from the GOAT: "If you run into a wall, don't turn around and give up. Figure out how to climb it, go through it, work around it." Luck has nothing to do with it, because I have spent many, many hours, countless hours, on the court working for my one moment in time, not knowing when it would come. I'd rather regret the risks that didn't work out than the chances I didn't take at all. You don't just play tennis and win. No, it's not like that. You work hard to improve your skills. Then you play what you learned. Winning is just a bonus. Never let the fear of failing discourage you from trying. Hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard. So many people along the way, whatever it is you aspire to do, will tell you that it can't be done. But all it takes is imagination. You dream, you plan, you reach. There will be obstacles, there will be doubters, there will be mistakes. But with hard work, with belief, with confidence and trust in yourself and those around you, there are no limits. There's some really beautiful quotes there that are really demonstrating the growth mindset that is required in order to be super successful at what you do. This is one more from Roger Federer, and there's actually you can YouTube his interview where he made this quote. But this is a really wonderful quote. I always questioned myself in the best of times, even when I was world #1 for many months in a row. What can I improve? What do I need to change? If you don't do anything or you just do the same thing over and over again, you stay the same. Staying the same means going backwards. It is important for me to actually hear criticism sometimes. That's what makes me a better player. So I think with that quote, it encapsulates the elite mindset so perfectly, in that you have to always be looking for a way to get better. You have to be looking for a way to change. You have to hear criticism. You have to fail in order to get better and better, even when you are really good. Because this man was #1 for huge amounts of weeks. I can't remember the stat off the top of my head, even though I have looked at it before. Another quote here from Jackie Joyner Kersey. The glory of sport comes from dedication, determination, and desire. Achieving success and personal glory in athletics has less to do with the wins and losses than it does with learning how to prepare yourself so that at the end of the day, whether you're on the track or in the office, you know that there was nothing more you could have done to reach your ultimate goal. So again, it's about pursuing excellence. So a couple of common misunderstandings that happen with the growth mindset stuff. A true growth mindset is not about taking what you like about yourself and calling it a growth mindset. Having a growth mindset is not about being open-minded and flexible. It's about being dedicated to growth and growing. So somebody says to you, oh, you're really open-minded. That doesn't necessarily mean that you are a growth mindset. Yes, you're open to hearing it, but are you dedicated to growth and to getting better and putting new ideas into place, or sticking with something that you've worked a long time at when necessary? And growth mindset is not just about effort or just about praising effort. It's actually about putting effort into a process, so into the strategies, the hard work, and seeking input from others. It's not just about putting more effort into ineffective strategies. It's about finding a strategy that is effective and putting effort into that. So putting effort into finding out what works for you, because everyone is different. And growth mindset equals telling others or ourselves that we can do anything. No, we can do anything, but it's not just from telling ourselves that we can. It actually comes from learning new skills and finding resources to make progress happen. It's not just about telling ourselves I can do it. Yes, I can do it. It's about taking action on that and finding out what I need to do in order to be successful. So a really great quote there from Wilma Rudolph. The triumph can't be had without the struggle. So in order to be successful and to triumph, we have to go through that learning pit. We have to have failures. We have to have setbacks. And it's about our mindset in persevering and putting effort in through those moments, through that struggle that will lead to our success. So now that we've done that, really quickly, let's talk about developing an elite mindset, developing the growth mindset where we can as well. So I think the first thing that we really need to be clear about is why. Talent isn't much without passion. So be really clear on why you're involved in athletics. Be really clear on why you're passionate about athletics. So it's very hard to do anything when we don't know why we're doing it. If the coach tells you to just go run 5Ks and doesn't tell you how this fits into your training plan, then it can be pretty hard to want to go and run 5Ks, particularly if you're asked to do it over and over again over multiple months. But if you understand how this fits into your training and why this is going to be a benefit to you, then it's much easier to do it. And any action we take in life has to serve a purpose. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it. And this is true for our helpful actions and our unhelpful actions. So there's always a purpose to what we do, no matter what the long-term consequences are. So I like to be fit and healthy. One of my values is to exercise and to eat well. But there are days when all I want to do is eat junk food. Now, that's not a very helpful action in terms of my values and particularly not the long-term consequences. If I eat junk food all the time, I'm certainly not going to be fit and healthy. But it serves a purpose in my life. I eat junk food because I get something out of it. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it. So it's really important to recognize even our unhelpful actions are serving some form of purpose for us. And so being clear on our why and what purpose our actions actually serve for us is really, really important, because then we can modify our behavior and our habits in ways that are going to help us move towards what's important to us. So if we're clear on, why do I need to be doing something, it's very, very important. And also when we're doing something from a place of love or a place of passion, we tend to feel more focused. We tend to feel that good sense of intensity. We feel energetic, and eventually we can even start to feel like things are effortless as we get into the zone. When we compete from fear or do things from fear or fear of the consequences, that's when we get tense and have self-doubt and feel a lot of pressure. So when we can be clear on our why and what our passion is and why this is really important in our lives, our motivation can be from passion or from love. It won't be from fear of failure so much. So be really clear on our purpose. So got a great quote there from LeBron James around his purpose and what is important to him. I think team first. It allows me to succeed. It allows my team to succeed. And then another quote there from a tennis player. If I have a reason to do something and I have enough passion, I generally succeed. So there'll be a space on the handout that you'll get that goes along with this presentation about your purpose and your why. So why do you do athletics? What do you love about it? What purpose does pursuing excellence serve you? How do you want to go about achieving in your discipline? And what is important about the type of athlete you are? Who are you as you're going about achieving your goals? Are you a professional athlete? Are you somebody who really loves the fun and not to take yourself too seriously? Are you somebody who's very disciplined? For me, I love something that's really important for me is being organized. And so organization is a big part of me going about my business the way I go about it. I think just being really clear on why you do what you do, what you love about it, what purpose is it serving you, how do you want to go about things, and what kind of athlete do you want to be, can really help you get some real guidance in developing your mindset and developing the way you want to go about things and therefore becoming an elite athlete. What kind of habits do you want to develop is really, really important. Now, most of us can be lazy at times, but I think being clear on your why can help you overcome those lazy moments. And don't get me wrong, laziness serves a purpose. Sometimes we have to recover. I had a lazy day Sunday, and I watched TV all afternoon, fell asleep watching a movie. Have no idea what that movie was about. But it's really important that we actually do have some lazy days occasionally in order to recover, because recovery is actually a really, really important part of being able to push ourselves long term. So being clear on where things are in your life and how it works is really, really important. So when you're faced with a particularly big challenge or a particularly tough competition, how does your mindset change when you're out on the track or the field? So when you're just competing at an inter-club, your mindset's probably pretty good most of the time, fed your confidence and things like that. But when you are in a situation where you're being really challenged and the competition is really tough, your mindset might change. And so in those moments, would you say that you are competing from your love of athletics or your fear of failure and embarrassment? Now, it doesn't matter where you are on this scale, 10 being I'm doing this because I'm passionate and 1 being from fear. Now, we're all going to change on this scale from day to day, and we're all going to be different from comp to comp, and one person's going to be different from another person. But when you're performing, how often are you performing from fear? Fear of, I don't want to be embarrassed, I don't want to screw this up, I don't want to let people down, versus I'm so passionate about getting out here and showing off what I can do. Where do you fall on that scale? And if you're on the lower end of the scale and closer to fear, what do you need to let go of in order to move that number up? Most of the time it's on some fixed beliefs. We need to let go of what failure means or the consequences of failure or what we've perceived that. So we need to let go of that fixed mindset stuff and start to embrace the passion stuff and the growth mindset stuff. What do you need to let go of? Is it fear of not being good enough? Is it fear of letting people down? Is it it's fear of being embarrassed? And so I think we just need to recognize, what do I need to let go of in order to move up towards passion? Fear's a big one. What if I don't make it across the finish line? Fear is a really big thing for us in athletics. It's really strong. I want to talk a little bit about what fear is. So when we compete from a place of fear, one of two things will happen. We tend to overthink our performance, try too hard, and force things to happen. Or we become overly cautious, fearful of mistakes and the outcome, and hesitate and miss opportunities. They're the different sides of the same coin. Over-trying and overthinking versus being too cautious, playing it too safe. And I'm sure you've done both of those things at some point in your competitive life. You might have a habit of doing one more than the other, but I'm sure you've done both at some point. This is what happens when we compete from a place of fear. When we're thinking from this fear perspective, fear of not achieving or fear of judgment from others, this is really, really normal. It's completely protective. It's about wanting to avoid a bad or a negative outcome, and it's super normal. We all have that, and it's really important that we acknowledge that that is part of being human. That this struggle is part of it, and it doesn't mean it's helpful. So, in order to understand our fear, I've got a nice little acronym, and this is on the handout as well. So fear stands for, in the way that I'm using this, and this comes from a book written by Dr. Russ Harris. I forgot to put his name there on the slide there, but this comes from the work of Dr. Russ Harris. And it's about understanding your fear. Fear standing for fusion, which is basically this idea that my mind is telling me all this stuff that's getting in the way and I'm believing it. So it's telling me stuff like I'm not good enough, everybody else is so much better than me, I shouldn't be here, the conditions are not in my favor, all these things that your mind tells you that gets in the way of you performing, and you believe it. So we fuse with this idea that I'm not good enough, or something like that. So it's all this stuff that our mind tells us, these stories that our mind says, you're not going to win today because da-da-da-da, or you can't perform today because da-da-da-da. Or we might have an excessive goal. Our goal might be too big. We might lack the skills, we lack the resources, or we have goals that we can't control. So we feel like it's a bit overwhelmed by it all at once. A stands for avoidance of discomfort. So we're unwilling to make room for the discomfort that this challenge brings. So it's the what ifs, the I can't perform if I'm nervous. It's the I've never been here before and I feel really uncertain. It's when we're uncomfortable and we're trying to avoid that it changes our behaviour. And remoteness from values, so losing touch with or forgetting about what is important or what is meaningful about this, which is why we talked about the passion stuff a second ago. Why is this even important? If we can't acknowledge why this is even important in that moment, it's very difficult for us and we're likely to be experiencing fear. So the antidote to fear, and again, this is from Russ Harris, we need to dare. We need to dare to take action. And so I've got a quote there. This quote has been attributed to lots and lots of people. But this one's from Ambrose Redmoon. Courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the judgment that something else is more important than fear. So in order to dare, we need to defuse. We need to let go of those unpleasant thoughts, those unhelpful thoughts that might show up in the name of protection. Trying to protect us, it's trying to help us avoid the bad outcome, but we need to let go of those unhelpful thoughts in the and focus on something more helpful. Some really easy strategies is to just name the story, or thank your mind, or acknowledge what's happening. He is judging, or name the demon or the monster. Recognize that this is radio doom and gloom that's playing in your brain. Simply let your thoughts come and go like passing cars. And mindfulness is a really great skill that we can do to be able to learn this diffusion stuff. So when I say name the story, if one of the common themes that comes up for you is I'm not good enough, it's just maybe give it a name like that. It's the I'm not good enough story. And every time those thoughts pop up, you go to yourself, this is the I'm not good enough story. When I listen to this story, how do I behave? Oh, actually, I start to behave this way. Okay, so if I let go of that story, what's more important for me to pursue? What are the actions that are more important for me in this moment? How can I focus on something more helpful? And your brain's always going to come up with why you're not good enough, or it's always going to do this in order to protect you because it's going, oh, we need to be prepared for the dangerous thing that's about to happen, i.e. my failure. But if we can change our mindset around failure, go, no, failure's not a bad thing. This is okay. This is all good. It's okay if I don't get it right today. Thanks, brain, for worrying about me. But you know what? I've just got to go out there and do my best, and what happens, happens. So that feeds into the acceptance stuff. So making room for the fact that nerves, worry, fear is likely to be present. We're going to feel this thing, particularly these things, particularly at big competitions. I can't imagine, I've never spoken to an Olympian who hasn't said that they have a whole bunch of emotions. Some of them really excited emotions and some of them, a bit overwhelming. We're going to have these emotions at times. But we also need to have the confidence that we can cope with it, that we can deal with that. And most Olympians do. Most Olympians know that they're going to feel a little bit nervous and excited, but they have the confidence that they know how to go through their routines and do everything they would usually do in order to perform. So a good thing to do is just to name the feeling, allow it, breathe into it, make room for it, and just give it a shape and a color and remind ourselves it's just a feeling. It's just a feeling, it's not going to hurt me, I can cope. And have realistic goals. So this is where your goal setting skills that I'm sure you've all developed before come into it. So if you lack skills, set some goals around learning them. If your goal is too big, break it down into smaller chunks. If you lack some resources, brainstorm how you can get them. Or if the goal is truly impossible right now, see if we can set some different ones for now. So if your goal is truly impossible due to health or financial or any other barriers that you have no direct influence over, let's see if we can set a different goal for now. A great example of that is the pandemic that we've all lived through now. None of us had any influence on what was happening with the pandemic. It happened around us. Yes, we could do things to flatten the curve, like wash our hands, stay home, and all of those things. And here in South Australia, we've done a really good job of that. And I know in Victoria and some other states, you guys are still going through that. And it's important to control what you can control in this situation, but you can't control that the pandemic is happening. So you need to reset different goals. Think about how you can use this opportunity to achieve other things right now. And so it's really important to have realistic goals. And then embracing what's important, connecting to what matters to you about this goal. Why is this meaningful? How is this important? And why is it there? Why do you need to invest in this? And that's where that passion stuff and that stuff we did on why do you do athletics? What is important to you about this? What is your purpose in athletics? Is really, really important. And so we also need to remember to approach things with a growth mindset. So our brain is like a muscle. The more we use it, the stronger it gets, and the pathways get stronger and stronger. And we have to learn in order to get these pathways existing in our brain and then practice these things. Nobody ever laughs at a baby when a baby's learning to walk. In fact, we celebrate every step they take. They get up, they fall down, they get up, they take a step, they fall down. Nobody laughs. Nobody expects them to know how to walk already. We know they have to go through that. We know they have to fail and get up again and fail again and get up again. And toddlers are great because they start to get steadier in their feet and then they fall over. But nobody ever laughs or judges or assumes they should be able to do it because they're learning. The same with our skills as we're going through. Nobody needs to judge ourselves because we're still learning. And it's really important that we understand that every time we fail or every time that we learn something new, we need to picture our brain forming these new connections as we meet the challenging and keep going. In fact, there's a lot of research that suggests that failure and how we respond to failure actually changes our brain. And if we can fail and keep going and persevere and learn something new every time, we are literally changing our brain. The ways to develop a growth mindset, I'm not going to go through all of this. I think your handout also has some tips on it. But basically, in developing a growth mindset, a couple of key things are learning to replace the word failing with the word learning. So I didn't fail, I learned. And it's really important to value the process over the end result. Focus on learning things really well rather than just fast. And try to remove the word should from our vocabulary. I should win today. Who said you should? What do you mean should? We end up shoulding all over ourselves a fair bit of the time. So if we can go, I would like to win today, or I could win today, or there's an opportunity for me today, instead of talking the shoulds. Remembering that challenges are opportunities, and remember that we need to train our brain and we have to learn, and that takes time. Rarely do we learn things overnight. Yes, some things are easier than other things to learn, and sometimes something might fall really into place really quickly for you, but other things won't, and that's okay. And take ownership over your attitude, and remember that your mistakes are powerful teachers. And instead of thinking, I'm sure we've all said these things for us before, things like, I can't do it, I haven't been able to improve my PB or my average, I'm not good at competing. I'm sure we've all said those things before, or at least thought them. And we can do something very simple to change those sentences. We can add the word yet. I can't do it yet. I haven't been able to improve my PB or my average yet. I'm not good at competing yet. And that is just a reminder that it takes time. And this can be something that you can use really simply. You can catch your squad mates doing it. You can catch your coaches can catch you. Really easy. You're not there yet. I know it's frustrating that you're not there yet, but you're not there yet. You can be in the future. It's through effort, hard work, determination, working out the right process. Another quote here from John Wooden. If you're not making mistakes, then you're not doing anything. I'm positive that a doer makes mistakes. Another really great way here is to think about what you can do. So instead of I can't, because maybe you can't do something right now. You don't have the skills yet, but you can grow. So these are some other little self-talk statements that might be useful. I can try, I can practice, I can learn, and I can improve. These are things that you always can do, no matter what. You can try, you can practice, you can learn, you can improve. You can grow. So really quickly, next activity is the growth mindset plan. So as athletes, most of us do spend a fair bit of time in that growth mindset space, in an elite space most of the time. However, we all have things that will trigger a fixed mindset for us. All of us will have something. For me, it's being confronted with a maths problem. For me, it's also when somebody asks me to do something creative, I'm like, oh, I'm not a creative person. No. I get a fixed mindset, very triggered. We all have triggers. For us, for you guys, it might be getting feedback from a coach. It might have been being the best person in the squad, and then all of a sudden a new person joins and they're better than you. We all have things that trigger a fixed mindset for us. It might be a particular competition, it might be a particular venue. We all do. And Carol Dweck talks about starting to think about our fixed mindset as a bit of a persona, a little bit of a character that our brain creates for us. So situations, it's really important to identify situations where a growth mindset might be triggered for you. So it might be failure, criticism, deadlines, disagreements with others, being outperformed by someone else, repeatedly hitting dead ends after making a mistake, competing at a high level when you're under pressure, competing under someone who you should beat, being asked to try something new. These might be all situations that might trigger a fixed mindset for you. So have a think about when your fixed mindset persona is triggered. Think about then how this fixed persona makes you think, feel, and act. It might be things like you start to make judgments, you might experience self-doubt, you might be feeling frustration or shame or stress and anxiety, having thoughts like maybe I'm not so talented, maybe I've reached my limit, I'll never be good enough. That might lead to us giving up or snapping at other people, or doing drills and efforts that are easier and more comfortable, or not being able to focus. These are usually things that we fuse within with fear. Things that we start to go, this is me, this is what's happening for me, and how it changes my behaviour. So for me, when I'm confronted with a maths problem, and instead of slowing down and taking time to work it out, I either pull out my calculator or ask someone else to do it for me. I'm not a maths person, I'm bad at this. I'll be embarrassed if I try and get it wrong. If I get it wrong, and I'll be embarrassed, and that sucks. And so I don't want to do that. So I'll just find a way to avoid it. So that's how my fixed mindset around maths will tend to cause me to act, to think, feel, and act. And then a great thing to do is to give your fixed persona a name. Recognize it. It's going to be with you most of the time, or some of the time at least. Give it a name. Identify it. So it can be a name from a TV, a character from a TV show or a movie or a book. You can name it after someone in your life. You can give it your middle name. You can give it a name you don't like. You can give it a descriptive name like Scared Sally or Dumping Dan. And by doing this, this actually helps with the diffusion of the unhelpful thoughts in the dare process. So, for example, maybe you want to name it something that just reminded you that, hey, this is with me. Example from my experience is I've named it after somebody in my life who's an incredibly judgmental person. And every time I have a conversation with this person, I roll my eyes and go, oh, there she goes again, judging everything and everyone. And my fixed mindset is a very judgy fixed mindset. So I've named it after that person. I'm like, oh, well, I roll my eyes whenever she's talking. So maybe I can roll my eyes and, just shoot out the fixed mindset for Fiona as well. And then we need to start thinking about what growth mindset responses we can start to use, that more elite approach to it. This is important to me because, reminding yourself why it's important to be in this uncomfortable situation where this mindset has been triggered. This is important because, and some other statements there might be, yes, it's possible that I'm not good at this yet, but I think I have an idea of what to do next. Let's just try it. Who can I ask for advice? Mistakes are good. I can learn from this. I can try, I can practice, I can learn, I can improve. Learning something new is hard. It takes time. I know if I persevere long enough, it will get better. Just because this is hard and uncomfortable now doesn't mean it will always be hard and uncomfortable now. I can push through. I can try. I can practice. I can learn. I can improve. It used to be hard for you to tie your shoes. Now you do it without thinking about it. It might have used to have been hard for you to add 2 and 2, but now you do it without thinking about it. Even I do it, even though my fixed mindset tells me I'm bad at maths, even I can add 2 and 2. So start to come up with some growth mindset responses that you can use when you've been triggered in a fixed mindset. Fill out that worksheet and start to practice it. Get your coaches or some other people to help you out with it. Other thing that's really important is that, like we talked about, having a growth mindset or having an elite mindset is about taking action. It's not just about our self-talk. Our self-talk is super important, but it's actually about taking action. About making sure that we are moving in a direction we want to move. So this is where some really important action planning comes into it. So maybe at the beginning of every day, at the beginning of every training session, you want to identify what are my opportunities for learning and growth today, both for myself and for the people around me. Think of those opportunities. What have you got an opportunity to do today? And form a plan. And then start to set a goal for yourself for that session or for that day. When, where, and how will I embark in my plan? And it's a really good time to use your good goal setting principles, using your SMART goals, your specific, measurable, action-based, realistic, time-based goals. Process-related usually. And if I encounter obstacles and setbacks, what can my plan B be around how I'm going to overcome these things? And when I'm successful, what do I have to do to maintain and continue this growth? So maybe you're a pole vaulter and you're about to go up. You've really nailed that one level and now you're about to go up. What opportunities do you have? You know that it's not going to be easy straight away. You're not going to clear it straight away. You've got to work on it. So what are your plans? What are your strategies for how you're going to work on it to get better each time you train? So again, quick summary here, just a reminder that with the elite mindset, we understand that successful elite athletes have a clear understanding of why their goals are important to them and understand what is important about how they go about achieving their goals. A really great role model for that is Ash Barty. She talks a lot about who she is as a tennis player, not just winning all the time. Elite athletes understand that excellence comes from constantly striving for improvement, and they do this by cultivating a growth mindset. So they define success differently, they define failures differently, and they respond to failures differently. They understand that failures and mistakes are critical and they're a very important part of getting better, and they embrace challenges. Effort is worth more than talent, and continuous learning leads to expertise, and they let go of. Having a growth mindset doesn't mean that you won't experience emotions of frustration or disappointment when things go wrong, but it will help us keep going in the face of these emotions. And in training, I want you to practice listening for your fixed talk and responding with growth talk. And remember, these are skills. We have to practice it, apply it, assess, modify. Practice, apply, assess, modify. We have to do that. So practice your growth mindset morning routine or pre-training routine when you start to think about what are my opportunities and set some goals. Some recommended reading for you is the book by Carol Dweck, Mindset. And there's a chapter there that specifically focuses on sport and performance. So some really great examples in there on how mindset is a critical part of being a successful athlete. So today we have discussed why sports psychology is important. We've spoken about the elite mindset, specifically what a mindset is, what mindset is common to elite athletes, what an elite mindset looks like, and how to develop the growth mindset, understanding the power of effort, continuous learning, and persistence. And we've planned for how we're going to train our brains to be more growth-oriented, and how we will deal with our fixed mindset disorder. And mostly importantly, we have learned that mental skills take practice, 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 practice. If you like what you've heard today and you'd like more on this kind of stuff, South Australia has a group of sports psychs that have a Facebook page where we put up tips and stories and articles around performance and wellbeing and motivation. So please give us a like. And if you had any questions for me specifically, my email and phone number are there, and you're very free to send me an email or give me a call at any point. Thank you very much for your attention today.